great.
Good afternoon. Today, I'm very happy to have somebody who's had a part of my recording career, and her name is Maureen McNamara. Where are you currently, Maureen?
I'm in New York City on the Upper West Side.
So tell me how you got started in singing. When you first singing?
Oh my goodness, way back in grammar school. They had these plays. I guess it was a yearly play, and what did they have us do? They had us do these, I think they were religious plays, and they had us dress. Oh, I know, it was in the first grade, and I played the Virgin Mary. And
so this is a Catholic. This is a Catholic.
Yeah, I was a Catholic school. Yeah, Catholic school. So I played that, and I had to pretend to have the baby Jesus, and they didn't have a doll one day. So I don't know if we put a football in a blanket. So I had to pretend the baby Jesus was a foot. You know, that's when my first acting came in use. But then later in grammar school, Catholic grammar school, we did a production of Fiddler on the Roof, if you can believe it. And I guess I wasn't around for the auditions because I was developing a voice at this point because I had sung in these shows throughout, and I had come in kind of late. So I guess maybe they just put me in the chorus, and then I came in and I was, they gave me, oh, I know what it was. I started to sing Fruma Sarah, and I sang that. And the director was also, the director was Philip Gaudio. He was also playing Tevye. And he liked me so much as Fruma Sarah, liked my voice so much, he gave me Zeidel. And I don't know what happened to the Zeidel that that maybe had the part already, but all of a sudden I was Zeidel. And I remember when they sang the song Sunrise, Sunset, and then we're supposed to kiss at the end, and I was horrified. I was like, I do not want to kiss him. This, I don't know, I must have been in the 4th grade or the 5th grade, and I just thought, this is terrible. I'm not going to kiss this boy. So luckily I changed. I grew up and learned that you have to act and pretend like you love this person. But I remember thinking, no, I'm not going to kiss him.
How many times do you think you did this?
How many times? Oh my God. You would rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. The same thing in high school. You rehearse and rehearse, and you didn't do many performances of it. It was like maybe weekend, once. It's probably weekend. If at most you probably did it for 2 weekends, like maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, something like that. But you rehearsed it for like 6 months, because you would do it after school rather than like a professional where you'd be rehearsing 8 hours a day. So, but I remember that I had so much fun singing Fruma Sarah. That was such a fun. I would never get cast. I wouldn't get cast in Fiddler on the Roof. Maureen McNamara. I mean, stars as Zeidel. Well, now, I passed the age for it anyway. But definitely, even in my youth, I wouldn't get cast as Zeidel. It's not an Irish Catholic and Fiddler on the Roof.
When did singing as a career occur to you?
When I was in high school, because when I first got into high school, who was it? I guess it must have been my English teacher who was also the person who directed the musicals. So he must have told me about it and must have told me to audition. So I auditioned for it, and this was for what was it? Oliver. And so I auditioned for it.
Nancy? Did you get to be Nancy?
No, I was too young. The person who played Nancy was a senior, and I was a freshman, so I didn't. So I played Bet, her sidekick, and I got to sing "I'd Do Anything," which is a great song. Okay. In fact, I had a friend of mine from school recorded it on a reel-to-reel, and I've recently got maybe a few years ago, he sent me the recordings and I was able to listen to them. It was really fun to hear that way back then. But
Nowadays they videotape, so.
I know, it would have been incredible. Oh my God, if I could have seen myself. You know, they took photos, so I see pictures of myself and I heard myself. So that was exciting enough, just to see that. But after doing that, people came up to me like, you really were good in that show and you should really do this. And I got a lot of support. And then my brother's 7 years older than me. So he was already, when I was in high school, he was well into college and he was majoring in English, but then he switched his major to theater. So I was, I still admire my brother. So I was kind of following in his footsteps and he gave me a lot of encouragement. So, so it was between my brother and then also the teacher and the director giving me, feedback like that. And so I did a musical or a play every year throughout high school. And like I said, we rehearsed for 6 months after school, and you did the weekend performances.
Did you have to pay? Do you have to pay? Because today I know you have to pay hundreds of dollars. Yes.
Oh, really? No, yes. I didn't have to pay. Oh, that's terrible. No, I was lucky. I didn't have to pay. But it was a great experience about learning and about confidence and I had a great deal of confidence doing that. I guess because I was, when I didn't start studying voice until, when was it, 1976. So I had been singing on my own, without any training. So I think my voice came naturally to me. In fact, once I started training, my voice teacher said, it's wonderful to work with you because you come to me with no problems. You haven't developed any problems yet, so I can work with you and train you to do things correctly. So I do remember going to one audition once, and this before I worked with Tony, and I sang, I can't remember what it was. I used to audition for everything and anything. I still have that moxie in me, I don't care what it is, I'll audition for it. And I sang, and it must have been a soprano song. And the person said, you have a beautiful voice, but the voice is like in the back of your throat. It's like a bird that's trying to come out. So I was like, oh, I guess I need to work on that. And that's what happened to me. Once I went to Tony, he helped me to vocalize and to train and to know how to, go up the scale and how to become a soprano. I was more of a not quite an alto, but I'm a soprano who has low notes. I have a pretty wide range. So, and I wasn't, in the parts that I was given in high school, I was not required soprano notes. It wasn't. So, so there was that. And then so that was in high school. And then I had seen my brother when I was in high school. My brother did some summer stock, and I went to see him in summer stock. And then I heard that they were casting, and this was in 75. Yeah, in 75, they were casting for the 1975 summer stock of Lakewood Musical Playhouse, and I went to the open call for it, and I knew the artistic director of it from having been in that theater, and he was a backer of Pepsi Cola. He would do little commercials in between at the intermission for Pepsi Cola. So when I went to the open call, when I got in, it was an open call. So I came in with a 6-pack of Pepsi and put it on the table and said hi, and then I sang this is for you. I thought you'd like this, and then I sang my song, and then anyway I got cast, and I was in the chorus, and then I got cast as Liesl in The Sound of Music. So I did get one lead from that open call. So that that was that, and then I.
Did you ever sing with your brother?
Yes, not in a show, but we have both belonged to a church called Judson Memorial Church. And we have
Al
sung at that.
Carmine's? Did you know Al Carmine's?
I knew Al Carmine's, yeah. I did a show called Christmas Wrappings with him, and I was one of the Joseph Angels. And I think, was my brother in that with me? I don't know if he did that with me, but my brother did a production of it at one point. But we've sung some duets. We sang a trio. My sister is a teacher, but she also has a good voice. And in fact, my voice teacher said, was your mother feeding you bird seeds, your family, because you all can sing? And so it's nice. And then my sister had recently, there's this thing that we do at the church called a Valentine's Cabaret, where members of the church will perform at this cabaret. And a lot of people at the church are performers or were performers, and so people will, sing. So I've done some duets with my sister, and I've done a number of them. And what did we do recently? What was the one? Oh, we sang.
This is still at Judson? You're still at Judson?
Yeah, at Judson, yeah.
Al Carmine's is gone for like 20 years.
Yeah, he passed away. But he was incredible. Al Carmine's was amazing. Just an amazing composer and person.
Did you see some of his, did you see Promenade?
I didn't. I auditioned for it when they were doing a revival of it, and unfortunately I didn't get it, but I remember auditioning for it. But he was a little wild when I did the production of Christmas Wrappings, and I was one of the Joseph Angels. I don't read music, but I'm very familiar with it. So once somebody plays it for me, I have a very strong memory of it, and I know it by heart. So anyway, when I learned the music, I learned it cold, and I was able to do it from memory all the time. So anyway, Al Carmine's very often would change the intro to a song completely. He would play something else, not what you were used to. So that's what he did to us one night for Joseph. He played something entirely different. And I was the third Joseph to come in, and you're supposed to say Joseph. And so the first person tried to come in, they couldn't. The second person came in, they couldn't. And then I came in, Joseph, son of David. And they all went, son of David. They all came in harmony, and they were like so overjoyed because I just had it from memory. I didn't care what the hell he was playing. I knew what I was supposed to sing. So he was just a little crazy.
You recall recording this show?
Did we record
because
it?
There is a recording. Actually, I've made it into a CD, so if you'd like to hear.
I wonder. I guess I could look into that, because it would be one. That was from 1980.
It's on
so
LP. The church, I think, back then.
They
recorded it live in the church. You think that's possible?
They may have. Yeah, I could ask. That was back in 1980. And then they did 2 years in a row. They did productions of it. But that one, I don't know. I could look. That would be incredible if they did do that. I did a whole
album. I did an album with Al Carmine's and Alice Clayton. And
really?
He basically played. And, my favorite thing that he did was a musical about W.C. Fields. And he played on the recording. He sang. It was Mickey Rooney playing W.C. Fields, and Bernadette Peters, very young Bernadette Peters.
Wow.
Playing his girlfriend. And Mickey was not easy to get along with, so the tour did not go well. But I said, I'd like to record some of these songs. We recorded 15, 20 songs. I can send you one of those if you want.
Oh, I love that. Love it. Oh,
Anyway,
speaking of.
Go ahead.
Oh, speaking of which, I did, in fact, I must have sent away for it maybe online. I did, in fact, get the recording of festival. I have it on CD. Okay. So I must have, maybe it was online or something. Somehow I got it.
On Amazon, yes.
Yeah, so somehow I must have, been floored and said, wait a minute. So I've been listening to it. It's so good. Oh my God. Such a good album. I just love it. Brought back so many memories. And in fact, I was talking with my husband about it. We remembered a number of years ago, we went to the Theater World Awards. I think it's when they had the afternoon performance. And it was at, when they had just done, what show was it? Once on This Island. And it was an afternoon performance. And that that's where they had the Theater World Awards, in that set, which was, you know, an island. So there was sand and all kinds of stuff. So they told the audience they could wear, anyone could wear Hawaiian shirts or whatever. And I forgot to tell my husband, and he got dressed up. He was like, "You mean I could have worn a Hawaiian shirt?" And anyway, so we, after the award show, we went to a restaurant to, you know, to have a celebration. And I ran into Bill Hutton, and I hadn't seen him in years, and it was so much fun to run into him. I took a picture, and we became friends on Facebook, and we've been, you know, well, we've been friends ever since. It's just we hadn't seen each other. So we talk all the time on Facebook, and it's just, and then listening to him, I listened to it yesterday and then today, and it's wonderful. It's just wonderful. I'm so thankful that you recorded it, you know, for history.
So where does your professional career, what do you get paid?
Say that again?
Where does your professional career start? When are you first paid?
Oh, when was I first paid? That was Lakewood Musical Playhouse. And I got paid $40 a week. And out of that, I had to pay, I don't know what I paid. I had to pay for the room. So I don't know what it was. Somehow I managed to save money. I don't know how I did it.
$1.97 maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I didn't go broke. And people were like, "How are you saving money?" You know, and I guess because I had been a cashier at a supermarket, so I was used to not earning lots of money. So, you know, I guess maybe $40 was looking up. So I did that, and then in the fall I did a production of Godspell at the what is it? Bucks County Playhouse. Did a production there, and the same friend who recorded me in high school recorded. I should ask him. Recorded that production of Godspell. And
did you get to sing Day by Day?
Yes, I sang Day by Day. Yes, I did. And then I must have auditioned for this. Then I went on a national non-equity tour of Godspell. And oh my God, that was so hard because the producers were just not good. And we would do one night stands 600 miles apart. You know, there were no rules that, you know.
A bus, I assume you're on a bus?
It was a bus and truck, not a van, a bus and truck.
The costumes and the sets are on the bus?
No, I think they were in the truck. But oh my God, it was just, and I was remembering that we were in Washington, D.C. and I think the producer left us, and they said, well, you can still get paid because we'll just split the box office receipts with the actors. And it was like, but nobody knows it's here. We were at a theater that used to be a movie theater, and it was underground, so nobody even knows where it is. So who's going to come see this? And how are we going to what are we going to get paid? So myself and the drummer, John Redsecker, is a drummer on Broadway now, said, this is ridiculous. We don't want to do it. We're not going to get paid. And they said, well, that's fine. We'll replace you. Now we were young and stupid then. And because we should have said, well, then replace us. Because who are they going to get? And we said, all right, we'll do it. And I think we got paid like 80 cents, you know, for that performance. It was ridiculous. But, you know, I mean, I think of it now, like I would never, if somebody said that to me, well, I wouldn't even be in that position. But if somehow I was in that position, I would say, absolutely, let me audition my replacement. I would love to see who is going to do this, who's going to learn the show, put those costumes on. Oh, and then in that same tour, we had no understudies. So when people got sick, the remaining cast members would take over their songs. So there was one night I was singing almost all the songs in the show. I don't think I sang Turn Back, Oh Man. I was disappointed because I would have loved that song. But I sang, did I sing By My Side? Yeah, I sang that with somebody, and I sang Bless the Lord. You know, it was, it was crazy. And then tour, you know, being on tour for that long was really rough. Made some good friends though at that time. And then so there was that, and that was 76. And then I came back, and then my friend Jolly, who I knew from Summer Stock, I told her I wanted to study voice. She said she had this wonderful voice teacher, and she recommended Tony DeLeva, and it was the best recommendation ever. And so from him, I went. So that was 76. I can't remember what I got in 76, but things started to happen for me because that voice that that person was talking about came out now, because I learned how to, you know, access my soprano voice as well as my belt voice, and everything was going into, you know, check. So I started to do, it was 1977, I got my equity card, and I went to the Tidewater Dinner Theater of the Stars, and I did Where's Charlie? And
Were you Amy?
No, I was Kitty Verdun, and my brother actually was in this show with me. Somebody was either left the cast or was fired or whatever, and they were looking for somebody to play Twomley and be an ensemble member. And I recommended my brother, and they hired him. So, you know, he came in and did the show with me, which was wonderful.
Where is Tidewater? Where is?
It was somewhere in Virginia. I can't think of it. It was in Virginia. It's a long time ago, but that's how I got my equity card. Oh, and in fact, my friend David Mallard, he and I both were getting our equity cards for this show. And we were told to go over to the director's house. I can't remember the director's name at this point. The choreographer's name is Jean-Paul Richard. The director, I can't think of his name, but we went over to his apartment and they said, okay, we have the contracts for you and you can sit here and you can sign them. Just sign on, you know, here's the page, sign here. We said, no, we'd like to read the contract. So we sat there and we read the entire contract. And then now we're ready to sign. And he was like, oh my God. So we signed it, we got our copy, and then we left. And we laugh about that to this day. It's like, now everybody just, you look, if there's a rider, you read that, of course, you know, what you're asking for, but you don't read the contract. But I read it the one time, so now I know.
When are you working in New York?
So when did I work in New York? I started to do showcases. I did a showcase in New York at the Equity Library Theater. I did Company. I was in the vocal minority in Company. And did I get an agent from that? I think I may have gotten a commercial agent from that. We did something called the pitch at intermission, where whoever was in the chorus or in a minor part was able to come out and sing a song or do something. And it was I'm not sure why we did it, but somehow we were able to come out and perform. So the vocal minority came out and came down this little staircase that was part of the set, and we walked down and they sang Hats Off, Here They Come, Those Beautiful Girls, and we walked down and we were dressed in lederhosen of all things. So it's like, you know, not so beautiful in these outfits, but you know, I made a grand entrance and I was at the back of the line and throwing my arms up in the air. And then as we walked off, I just flicked my head back to look at the audience and went off. And I got a notice from that. Somebody noticed me, and I think a casting director called me, or a commercial person called me. I remember that. But then I did some.
Did Stephen Sondheim come to see the show?
I don't know. I don't think so, because I think I would have heard it, but it was fairly soon, because I was 78. I forget when company was only a few years before that.
70, I think 70.
Yeah, so I guess this was 8 years later. Then I did something called Manhattan Breakdown, which my brother wrote. He wrote the book and the lyrics for, and that I got a good reaction from. And then, so that's 78. Then I did, I wasn't in New York yet. Then I did Shenandoah on the road. Then, so I toured that for the summer of 78. Then I think I went.
Who was the father? Who was the father?
Oh, Chester Ludkin, who was an opera singer. He was very good, actually. He wasn't bad as an actor either. Beautiful voice, just glorious voice.
Did you ever see John Cullum? Did you see John Cullum do it?
I didn't. I've heard him sing. I think I had the album. I'm sure he was amazing. In fact, the guy who directed us was in the Broadway production of Shenandoah, Robert Johansson. And so he...
I did a recording. He became a director. I recorded him. I did a musical on The Great Expectations. A friend of mine wrote it. And he was not performing at this point, and he was quite difficult as a director at Paper Mill.
Robert Johansson?
Yes.
Oh,
but
yes.
as a participant, he was just fine. Whatever we asked him to do, the writer asked him to do, he said, sure, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah. He can be, but he's a nice guy though. We used to call him Bobby Johansson.
Did you ever work at Paper Mill?
Yes, I did. I did Carousel. Not Carousel, I'm sorry, Camelot. I got my C's wrong. I was in the chorus, and then I sang Nimue. I sang Follow Me. And it was a split part. They decided to have a flying Nimue, and I sang the part on a microphone in the wings, and it was wonderful. My voice teacher came to hear that, actually, and I went to an open.
They almost always have a big orchestra. With a lot of these theaters, you don't have an orchestra, right?
Yeah, that was a wonderful production. That was really good. And the woman who was flying Nimue, she had to pretend like she was singing. And she said, I was so excited that people actually thought that was me singing. But you couldn't actually sing that song and fly around. It would be impossible. It's a...
Were you in New York at that time and took a van to get to the theater?
Yes, in fact, I drove the van because it was so funny. We were at a cast meeting, and they said, we have a van going back and forth to the theater, and they said, who'd be willing to drive the van? So I raised my hand, and then they said, I think they were paying $125 a week for it, and they said, we're going to pay $125 a week for it. And then other people raised their hand. They said, it's too late. Maureen already raised her hand before she knew.
So where did you just go into a parking lot in New York? What did you do?
Yes, there was a parking lot. Now it's, is it a Jewish center now? Because there used to be a gas station and parking lot in Amsterdam on like 70-something, 77th. And so I would you could park a van there. And I would get that van, and I'd pick people up along 9th Avenue. I picked up this one woman on 9th Avenue, but mostly I picked people up around Times Square at like 9th Avenue, got everybody there, brought them to the theater, and drove through that Lincoln Tunnel. And, I mean, that was a lot.
Problem getting there on time, because I've gone to Paper Mill and the New Jersey Turnpike and come to a standstill. Did that ever happen to you?
Well, we left very early just to, I think we used to leave at like 4:30 or 5. So we didn't run into that. But there were sometimes even then it was a problem. So
coming home was easier because there wasn't the traffic people going into New York.
Yeah, there was nothing. There was nothing else. But yeah, no, that was that was fun. And then I got a mention in the I think it must have been the New Jersey newspaper about my voice, and whoever is singing that Nimue. I wish I could remember the exact quote. It was just deserves something. Just has a glorious voice above all the cast, something like that. So it was nice to be recognized, even from the wings.
So what else happens after that in New York?
So that was 78. So then I think I did Godspell out in Ravenna, Ohio. I did Bless the Lord. I did Godspell there. Then, and Scott Bakula did the production with us. He was Jesus. Then I came back, and in 79, I can't think what else I did, but then we did something called the Musical Theater Lab Reviews. And a lot of good people were in that with me. Lynn Thigpen, Lenny Walby, Mary Testa, who else? I'm trying to think other people that you remember. And it was, they were original Barry Vigon, and I can't think of the other guy, but these were original skits that were written every week, something new. And members of the industry would come and watch it. And all of us got strong reaction from it. And I think all of us got agents from it. I know I did at that point. And that's when I started to be sent out on things. And
this is down in Astor Place?
No, this was in, where were we? On 50th Street, someplace on 50th Street between 8th and 9th, I think it was. Either that or it's either, yeah, there must have been between 8th and 9th. So I used to take the train to 50th Street. And so I did that. I'm trying to think, what else did I do? So that was 79.
Where does Shakespeare Cabaret come?
That came in 81. That was 81. So I auditioned for that. And that was like the beginning of my understudying. I did a lot of understudying. I think did I audition? I must have auditioned. I either auditioned for it and didn't get it, or just somebody saw me in something else. But I had to come in and audition to cover all the roles. There were 4 women in it, and one woman, Catherine Cox, was leaving the show to go to Barnum. She was taking over for Glenn Close. And so I was able to go on for 2 weeks, and then Dee Hoty took over Catherine Cox's part. I didn't get to take it over because they considered me too valuable because I knew all the other roles, and Dee could come in and learn the role while I was it's awful when that happens, that you can't take over the role that you're doing. But
as I recall, this is actual Shakespeare lyrics set to modern music.
Yes.
So never, unfortunately, was a recording. Too bad. And I'd been around earlier, I might have thought of doing that.
Yeah, no, that would have been great. Yeah, there was pretty good music. It was pretty. I remember it. I remember that. It didn't run very long. And that was at the time that I was doing Different Strokes. I had an audition for Different Strokes. I was doing this show. I was doing Shakespeare's Cabaret, and they wanted me to come out for Different Strokes for an audition. And they let me out of my contract because it was closing anyway, Shakespeare's Cabaret, and they let me stay out there because they cast me in Different Strokes. And that, what it was a an episode of Different Strokes that really was a kind of a pilot, but it was an episode of Different Strokes. And what happened is one of the members of my cast came on to the Different Strokes characters and talked about what his life was like. He was helping Arnold with history. He said, "Oh, you should come to my class. Miss Armstrong is a great teacher," and that was me. And she could be very helpful to you, and blah, 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 whatever. And then anyway, we cut to the class, and then that was it for them. You never saw the Different Strokes people ever again. And then the rest of it was all of us. And in fact, the closing credits were not Different Strokes at all. It was all of us. And it was supposed.
Who were some of these people?
Well, Bob Ari was the guy who appeared opposite me. And then the other cast members that I remember who went on to fame are Ernie Hudson and Rosalind Chow. Both of them were in it. So if it had spun, it was to have been called Almost American. And in fact, when I auditioned for it, I actually auditioned for it in New York at first with this. Was he a casting director or a producer, whatever? It was someplace in New York. It was actually in a hotel room, but he didn't try anything. It was just that's where he was. And I auditioned, and it must have gone well, because what they said what they were looking for is an older teacher who was having problems teaching this class. But when they saw me, the way I did it, I was kind of fumbling and bumbling, and they said, "We like the fact of a younger teacher." So somehow I changed their minds. And in fact, one of the lines that Ernie Hudson had, his name was Kwame, he said it when I was, whatever I was doing that wasn't correct, he said, "It's not your fault that you don't know what you're doing." And then I said, "Thanks, Kwame. I needed that."
Is this your first television?
Yes, that was my first television.
Did you have a separate agent for TV?
Yes. Well, they were both. It was TV and film. So that was, so I got that. And so that was 81. So I did a commercial for, I forget what year the commercial, I did a commercial for Eraser Made pens, and that, I wonder no, commercials are different because they didn't cover commercials. So I had somebody else who was sending me out commercials. And I remember the commercial was the person who wrote, I don't know if it was the person who wrote it or was the director. They kept wanting me to say it a million different ways. And
say it in a happy way, say it in
say it this way,
perplexed way.
Yeah, say it this way, say it that way. Put emphasis on that word, then this word. And all it was is the new Eraser Mate 2. 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 So I did everything they asked for. I did it. And then finally, whatever it was, they were happy. And they said, "That's it." So then I was leaving, and one of the people who was, I don't know if it was the hair people or the sound people, whatever, they said, "Thank you so much for doing that. We could have been here all day if you didn't follow along like that." So thank God.
Was it a frequent thing on TV?
It was. I don't have a copy of it because it was probably Betamax or whatever it was, VH, and it was long ago, so I don't think I had a recorder or whatever it was. So it's not like now where you can just DVR it and then you have it. And then did I have another one? I know I had that one for sure. And then I did a soap opera. I did that I got through my agent. I played I can't think of her name. I played a nurse, but it was it wasn't like a walk-on nurse. It was like actual character. And she was on As the World Turns. And I got in trouble with one of the leads. I can't think of the doctor's name, but he was one of the famous people on the show. And he told me that I shouldn't be, diagnosing the patients and giving them advice on how to take care of themselves. And he said, and I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, well, you know, I prescribe medicine for them and you're prescribing vitamins. And I don't know what I had to fumble and bumble. And, you know, I was doing all that kind of.
So sometimes you did ad lib.
I don't know if I did with that. No, I had specific lines for that one. I do have a story. This takes us all the way into the 90s. I was doing extra work on a Woody Allen film called Celebrity. And they asked for some extras to come up onto this porch, and I was one of them. And Woody Allen was there, and he said, I'd like you to walk, you know, to walk once the camera's on, just to walk, and like, I want you to have this Bible in your hand, and then to walk along, and then stop and look at something in the Bible, and then walk along. And I said, oh, do you want me to look at one of the racy parts in the Bible? And then he stopped and he goes, oh, I see. And he goes, I think I want to put you in the scene. So he did. He put me in the scene, and then and talk about ad libbing. So he said, what I want you to do is, there was this priest, and his name was Father Gladden, and he had all these autograph seekers on the porch, and I was going to be one of the autograph seekers, and he wanted me to just ad lib. So and I was just kneel down and start ad libbing. So he told me a little bit what I might say, and so anyway, I started to do it, and I started to, you know, he said something, and I started to say something. Then he stopped the camera and he goes, okay, maybe I need to be a little more specific with you. He said, now I've written the script and I'm very happy with what I wrote. And he said, now, when they say their lines, wait till they say their complete line so that I can hear that line, and then you can say something. Then let them say their complete line, and then you can say something. So if you can do that, then we'll be fine. I said, oh, I'm so sorry, of course. And then that's what I did.
Funny? Did you make up something that was funny?
I don't know. I don't know that I did.
You haven't watched this movie in recent times?
It's called Celebrity, and I still get residuals for it. I get like 5 cents now. It's, you know, it's a long time, but I get residuals for it. It's back.
Was there an opening night party? Did you go to an opening night?
Yeah, no.
No.
I should have.
At the plaza, you went at the plaza?
Yeah, they did. They forgot to send me an invitation.
We've gone past festival. We've mentioned it slightly, but let's go back to festival.
Oh yeah, that's right. We forgot about festival. Of course, that's in New York. That was of course, 1979. How could I forget? I already went. I skipped to the Lab Reviews Festival, 1979. I went to. I must have had an agent. No, I didn't have an agent then. So because I got them at the end after the summer of '79. So I'm somehow. Maybe I had somebody contacted me. Somehow I got this audition. It wasn't an open call. Somehow I actually had an audition, and they wanted a pop song, and I didn't have a lot of pop songs. So I remembered, and this is the 70s, so Streisand was singing a lot of pop songs, and so I learned Evergreen, and I brought it to my voice teacher, and we worked on it, and then and I said, okay, I'm going to do that. So I sang Evergreen, which was perfect because it has a lot of similarity, which I didn't know, to Festival. Has a lot of similarity to it. So I sang that for them, and
the show is currently being performed in Los Angeles, and they wanted you to come out. So
is it really?
No. When you got into the show, didn't you have to go to Los Angeles to audition?
No, this was a New York audition. The initial thing was in New York, and the director was there, and the choreographer and the producer was there. In fact, Leslie Moonves was one of the producers. And one of the things he said to me, when did he say it that day even? He said, you know, you should never wear boots to an audition. He said that well, now that I think about it, it's interesting that he said that. So because we can't see your legs. That's an interesting thing for him to say, given his history now. And I said, well, you know, but I said, well, you hired me with the boots, so it seems to have worked. You know, that was my my response to him. Yeah, so it must have been after I got hired. But
originally it had been done in a quite different way in Los Angeles.
Yes,
and the
Stephanie,
two stars were
Stephanie
Zimbalist
and Gregory Harrison.
Right, and they got TV or something, right? So they.
Yeah, although Gregory did it in Washington D.C. with me. She didn't, obviously, because I took over the part. But you know what happened is I auditioned for it here in New York, and they didn't say anything. They liked me, but I heard nothing. And then I got a call. We want you to come out to LA. We'll pay for your, we'll pay for your trip to LA. So my mother drove me to the airport, and I got the ticket. And I said to my mother, "Oh my God, I'm so upset." She said, "Why are you upset?" I said, "It's not a round trip ticket. It's a one-way ticket. What's going to happen?" She said, "Don't worry about it. Maybe that means you got the part." I said, "I don't know. I'm very concerned." So, and she was right. They brought me out there to see me again. I don't recall if I had to read, but what they did is they had me reading with other people because they were casting other people. So they had me sit in on auditions. And then I think they had me dance, or they had me do a couple of things. And then they did hire me, and then they had me watch a video of the show, the West Coast production, and had me learn the show from the video all by myself. And what was awful is I learned the show, but it was backwards. I learned it because I was watching, I didn't compensate for the fact that I was watching a mirrored, it wasn't a mirrored image. So if I thought I was going to the left, but really it was going to the right. So it was a hard adjustment when I brought it, when we brought it to Washington, D.C. But
so that's where you first started to do it with Harrison.
Yes. And he did it. He did the production I don't know if we rehearsed, maybe and I think we also rehearsed in LA too, because everybody was there. And then we brought it to DC.
At the Ford's Theater, where were you in Washington?
Yeah. Yes, and then there's a story about the Ford's Theater and Gregory Harrison. We had this thing, this trapeze that we used. We had a tree and a staircase in the tree, but we didn't use it. We used a trapeze to get down from the tree. And one person used it, and then I used it, and also Greg used it. And it didn't happen exactly in a row, but that was the order of people. So anyway, that one person used it, and I used it to get down. It was a bit. Somebody said, "Come down from the tree," and then I did it, used it, and they were like, "Oh, that's one way to come down." And at any rate, I came down, and then it was time for Greg to come down, and the trapeze broke, and Greg tumbled to the ground and passed out. And we didn't even have a curtain to bring down because it's the Ford's Theater. So, we stopped the show. I ran over to him. We all came out. Then they had to carry him out. Finally, he came to, and we were asking him, how are you doing? Of course, this is the Ford's Theater where Lincoln was shot. And he said, "Please don't take me across the street."
That's what happened to Lincoln, right?
So I knew he was doing well when he said that.
But you didn't finish the show that night.
He didn't finish the show. So he left. And Wayne Bryan, who's the director, he was also the understudy. He put on, he had, I guess, his own costume. He put on the cape. He came out and he finished the show. I had just finished singing Special Day. There's plenty more of the show to go. And he just carried on, and we just, oh my goodness. That was so shocking. So shocking. And he did.
Were you told it was going to New York?
I think so. I think they did say that. I don't know if it was I don't know if they told us when we were in LA or if it happened when we were in Washington. I have a feeling it was when we were in Washington. But then I think we were told that Gregory was not going to come. And I don't know what happened with Michael. Maybe they were auditioning him, or maybe they just offered it to him, because Michael, has quite a background in theater. And then Robin Taylor, for some reason, didn't come to the New York production. I don't know why. Tina Johnson took over. So she's on the recording, not Robin.
So most of the cast from Los Angeles didn't journey.
Yeah. Lindsay Nesbitt, she came, and Magnuson came. Others came, but the bigger names. Oh, Roxanne Parker, she came, the one who sang the song, The Mothers, that that she sang to me. I was listening to that. So
how much did the show change before you opened?
how much did it change? Oh, there was a lot of, oh yeah, good question. It's a lot of change. Well, they brought Bruce Valanche in. They were giving me changes almost every night. A lot of changes.
Little jokes. There are a lot of jokes.
Yeah, little jokes they put in, little jokes, particularly with our balcony scene. They were talking about arms and legs and feet and things like that, and I had arms, legs. All this talks of limbs is most disconcerting, things like this. I can't remember all the lines. Oh, wait a minute. I happen to have the script. What the hell did I say? Must be right at the beginning.
You are the female lead, right?
Yes. Oh, here it is. Wait a minute. Oh, here it is. This is what it that's what she says. Your father, this is me, my character, your father has forbidden you to see me. And this Okasan, I come to you with my heart in my hand. What good will it do to us there? Then I lay it at your feet. Hands, feet, all this talk of limbs is most unsettling. And that's Bruce wrote that in. And then he sings. I can't remember all that. I remember him adding that.
What do you recall the reviews being like in New York?
I think they liked it. I know they liked it in Washington, but Marilyn Stasio of the Post didn't like us in New York. She commented about the space, the city center. The space was like a basketball court, or that's what she said. It was hard for us. Our set was kind of squeezed in there because we had this big tree. We looked smashed in that theater. It must have just opened up, and that was the theater that we could get. We probably would have been better at a smaller theater like the Helen Hayes or the Booth, something like that.
When did you learn that someone was going to make a cast album of it?
When did I learn? When did I learn that? I don't know if it was it must have been fairly soon after we closed. I do remember it being at
Wayne
what was it?
Wayne Bryan came to me, and he said, "How would you like to record it?" And I said, "Well, my resources are very limited." He said, "What if you didn't have to pay for it?" I said, "That sounds awfully good."
Oh.
So Roger Berlin and the rich people paid for it.
Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, of course record it. and it was on 8th Avenue or 9th Avenue?
Yes, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a building. It's called something.
Yeah, I know. I remember because I went into that studio.
45th
I mean,
Street, something like that. 45th
yeah, something like that. Because I went in there for some performance recently, maybe maybe 2 years ago, and I remembered the building, and I went into the floor where it was, and I was so much wanted to say, I recorded here many years ago, and it was a great studio, and I was like, they're probably going to not care. They could care less about the fact that I recorded here.
Two brothers, and they're actually still around and both very nice. and I, Marshall, and I forget what the other guy. I had just recorded a few months earlier in Trousers with Bill Finn.
Oh, yeah, with Mary Testa. Yeah.
And Allison Fraser and Chip Zien. So I was happy to, at that time, Bill Finn had no reputation. This was his first show. And it didn't sell. For years, it did not sell until they combined it with another Marvin musical and did it as falsettos. And won the Tony. And then somebody said, "Oh, you want to hear In Trousers?" And it's wonderful songs, wonderful songs.
Yeah.
So now, when does Ain't Broadway Grand come?
That came in the early, it came in 92. I had just in, 91, I had done Camelot at Paper Mill. And I did that as an open call. Then and that's why I'm saying that. So I did Camelot at the Paper Mill. Then I was, wanting to work again. So I went to another, I got Camelot from an open call. Then I went to another open call for Westchester Broadway Dinner Theater for Annie, Get Your Gun. And I think they had the dance part first for some reason. So I danced and I went through that, with singers who move, something like that. So it wasn't either that or move well, something. And I passed that, and then they had you sing. So I sang, and I had this really funny version of When I'm Calling You. And I sing that, and I drew my attention to the piano player who was faced towards me. He was like right in front of me. Usually they're off to the side, you don't really see them, but he was facing me. So I started to sing it in his direction, as if he's the person I'm singing about. And as I started looking at him, he started ducking away from me, playing with me. So I said, "Oh, this is gold." So I started performing it with him as if he was my partner. And then there's a point in the song where I get so low, I fall to the floor and sing flat on the floor, completely on my face, and then come back up again. And then, I'm totally dejected, and I come up and then I sing some more to him. They were howling. And the person who was in the room was Scott Harris. And they were howling because of this going on between the two of us and me passing out on the floor and then coming back up. And I finished, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is hilarious." Anyway, they cast me in the chorus and then to understudy Annie in Annie, Get Your Gun. Now, it turns out I was already hired to do 2 productions at the Montana Repertory Theater, and I was going to do Romance, the lead in that, and also Annie in The Real Thing. And I was already hired for that. And they were going to conflict. I could have done some of Annie, Get Your Gun, but I would have had to leave, and I didn't want to do that to them. So I was very honest, and I said, "This is what's is happening, and I don't want to leave you like that." So I turned it down. So I do The Real Thing and Romance, come back to New York, get a call from Nancy Gibbs saying they need an understudy for Opal. I do Opal, understudy, closing night. Scott Harris is there, remembers me, wants a picture and resume. I have a project in mind for you. And that's Ain't Broadway Grand. Then I go and audition for Ain't Broadway Grand, and that was for the Candlewood production of it. And
in Connecticut.
That's one in Connecticut.
Pretty near to me. You want to get near to me? I know you do.
I'm sorry?
You wanted to be near to me because I'm only about 20 minutes away.
Yes, that was it. And then I was auditioning in an open call for Annie Warbucks, and they wanted me, and Thomas Meehan was doing both shows, and his office called me and said, we think you should do Ain't Broadway Grand, not Annie Warbucks. Annie Warbucks offered me the chorus and understudying Deborah Monk. I think she was playing Hannigan. And money-wise, they were both pretty good. But Ain't Broadway Grand was pretty good money. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna listen to it. So
this is Mitch Lee writing the music, not long after Man of La Mancha.
Yeah.
And Lee Adams, who normally wrote with Charles Strauss, but they sometimes went with Charles Strauss went with more people.
Would work with other people. Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful music. And so once again, I had to choose between something, and I know I made the right choice. Then after I did that production, I had to audition for the Broadway production, and that was a little.
Tell us what happened at the end of Candlewood. What happened?
Oh, that's right. At the end of Candlewood, it was the closing weekend. It was it Friday? I think it was the Friday. So we had several performances still to come up. And I had a rehearsal that afternoon at 5 o'clock. And we got to the theater, and there were chains with a lock on the theater, and we couldn't get in. We're like, what's going on? And Rick had shut down the theater, Rick Bouncer, and it was closed. We couldn't,
The owners of the theater owed money or something.
Yeah, something like that. So we were all like, what? And there was a restaurant next door. So we all went next door because we were like, what are we going to do? And, so we had something to drink. And, so then gradually other people came because they were getting ready for, we had something to eat and whatever. So people started to come at 7:30, people, dancers, whoever was showing up, and everybody had the same reaction. And then finally, Mitch was like buying us drinks and whatever. And then some people were ready to go home. And, we were just couldn't believe it. Just couldn't. We never had a closing performance,
But did you know when you did it at Candlewood, did you know you were going into the La Fontaine?
We knew nothing.
So didn't know. At the end of Candlewood, you maybe thought that's the end of Ain't Broadway Grand?
Yeah. Well, at least for me, I had no idea. So then when they called, when was that? That was, we did it in October for a few weeks, or maybe that was November. So some point towards the end of November that I had to audition for it. So maybe they knew, but I don't recall knowing that we were definitely going and that we were going to be at the Lunt. I think all of that kind of happened. So
no talk of doing it anywhere except New York, right?
Yeah, no, that was, I think that was the plan. So I take that back. I think the plan was we were going to move it. So we all knew it was going to move. I don't recall if we knew it was going to the Lunt, but I think the plan was that we were going to move it. But it was just so heartbreaking. My family was supposed to come up and see it. They were coming up. I don't know if they were coming that night. No, they weren't coming that night. So they must have been coming Saturday night. So they weren't going to see it. So it was just awful.
This is I don't know if we mentioned this is a musical about the life of Mike Todd. So people know what Ain't Broadway Grand was. That's Mike Todd's life in the women.
Oh yes, it's the life of Mike Todd at the time he was producing Broadway musicals, and this is when he was married to Joan Blondell. He also was married to Elizabeth Taylor, but that was after Joan Blondell. And
was he also involved with Gypsy Rose Lee? Was he married or just boyfriend?
Gypsy Rose Lee, yeah, he kind of. It looks like they had an affair, and that's what was going on, and that happened in our show. So I had all these songs. That's what was interesting about my part in this show. I had 3 ballads, and they were really wonderful songs. And what happened is there would there's a lot of commotion that would happen in the show, loads and loads of commotion. And then everybody would leave and I'd come on, and I'd be by myself and I'd sing a song, and then I'd leave, and then loads of commotion. So it's interesting. In fact, there's one story, happened in Connecticut, because they changed it in New York, so it didn't happen ever again. But when I sang the song Man I Married, there was a song just before it. I can't remember what the song was, but it was some big number where they were using pies. They were must have been smacking each other in the face with pies. And I don't know what song it was, but they used shaving cream. So things would, and all kinds of stuff would show up on the stage. So they had a lot to clean up before my scene would come in, and there would be a bed and a telephone, because that's what they did in the Connecticut production of The Man I Married. I had a bed and a telephone, and it was different in New York. So one night I come out and I see something on the floor, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? And I pick it up, and there's shaving cream, and I have shaving cream in my hand. I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? And I just took it and I smooshed it on the bedspread. I was like, I've got to sing a song. I can't have shaving cream in my hand. So I told them, you got to clean up the shaving cream. And it was good I picked it up, because that would have been really awful to have that on the floor. So it was a lot of hijinks going on in that show.
Okay. There was a recording of this because Mitch Lee went to the principal actors, not chorus people, I believe, just principal actors. He said, we're recording like a backers thing to raise some more money. But indeed, he was doing a cast album. And then he made them into cassettes. I don't think he believed a cassette was like a CD. But of course, it is. And he paid almost nothing to the actors. And eventually Mike Burston, who I've become very friendly with, said, you can't do that, Mitch. And he took him to Equity, and everybody but you were paid a week's Broadway salary.
Yeah, we got a nice check.
And then ultimately, it got put out by me long after. It's a more story, which I don't think I should go into, but so that's currently available. And the title song to me is like, there's no business like show business. It's the famous gay white way.
Yeah, it's a great song.
So this whole series that you will be on Zoom is called Ain't Broadway Grand, the title of the Zoom.
And it is Broadway is Grand.
Right. So, and I understand now you're kind of back auditioning and doing things.
Yeah, I've been away for a long time. Needed to earn a living and get some 401k under my belt, and so I decided to come back to theater, and I've just been doing a lot of self-tapes. I go online to actorsequity.org and find out about all these auditions, and I've sent out lots of self-tapes, which is, this is the way it is right now. There are still no live auditions, so it's at least an opportunity to get my face in front of casting people. So I've been doing that, and currently looking for an agent. So just trying again.
Great to see you back and performing in New York. I would certainly come to see that. So summing it all up, what would you say was the highlight of your performance?
What's the highlight? Well, I sure like being on TV. I thought that was, and I have to say, being on Broadway, singing those songs, it was interesting. When I would rehearse, all my songs, the director and the composer and the lyricist, they would, stop me and try this, try that, do this, over and over again. And I remember the very first preview, I got to sing the song straight through. And as I was singing, I was like, nobody can stop me. I'm singing it straight through. And and then of course I got to all the performances that way. I mean, afterwards they told me whatever they felt like telling me, but it was the thrill of my life to stand on a Broadway stage singing with a 30-piece orchestra. It's just the best. And I have that recording, and I haven't sent this out, but my husband is reminding me, if you have an opportunity to send out your audio, send out that Ain't Broadway Grand audio, because that's pretty amazing to have such a recording like that. So I think I put it on my Backstage website. So, there's all, and that's what's interesting, getting back to, asking what I'm doing right now. It's a whole new world right now. It's just a whole new world of auditioning. It's different ways of doing it. And so it's exciting. And it's like, I feel like in many ways, like when I first started out, when I was a young girl, just saying, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And you just put one foot in front of the other, and you try, and something will come of it. That's how it worked in the past, and that's how it will work now. I'm just happy to be back doing it and singing again. And I've been singing a lot, and that's what all these self-tapes have been good for me. I've been singing a lot, and that brings me a lot of joy. So in fact, I'm going to be singing at my church again coming up in about a week or so. So
what are you likely to sing then?
I'm going to sing Children Will Listen,
yeah.
Which I love. Yeah, we're doing a little, they were supposed to have a weekend where they went up to the country on a retreat, but they chose to cancel it due to the Delta variant. So instead they're going to do something on Zoom, and people are recording videos or sending a video in, or in my case, I'm going to go to the church and do it with the musical director. And then that's going to be recorded, and then they're going to put it on the Zoom as a taped performance.
You go to Judson. If you're looking to watch this, you go to Judson. Do they have a thing where you register or sign up?
I don't know. I don't know if you do. It may be I'm not sure. It might be a closed Zoom. I don't know. I mean, I suppose you can go to judson.org, but I'm not sure. I
will certainly look into it, and I thank you very much for all the time we've had to chat about Broadway. And,
thank you.
I look forward to seeing you sometime. And if you're interested in recording some Shakespeare cabaret songs, I would definitely like to do that.
Do you have the music?
Oh, I was counting on you.
Yeah, see, I don't. Who I could ask? My friend Michael Levine is somebody in the business who has a lot of sheet music.
That wouldn't really work out in my case. You could ask him. Don't say that the British Echo is involved.
Oh, I wouldn't mention it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that or something else. I do a lot of projects and things like that. I have this whole series called Lost Broadway and More.
Yeah.
Which is basically songs that have never been recorded.
Yeah. I say festival, but you recorded it.
Yes. Very good. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bruce. It was
it's
such a pleasure. Okay.
Good.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.